You seem like a practical guy, but have you ever read some sort of financial theory and stuff? I mean, did you invest some time in it, or you simply went with the flow and started making stuff?
No, I learned everything along the way. I've mostly read some kind of basic theory and stuff like that, but I think business is my strength, and that's something that's quite, you can't really, you learn it through doing it.
I'm sorry, have you thought about investing in the Balkan Peninsula and other countries, not only Bulgaria?
Maybe, but for now Bulgaria is, I've lived here for 2 years now, and I've kind of, throughout my life, I always loved Bulgaria and kind of coming here, so this is my focus. I don't see myself as a professional angel investor. I just invest, by the way, for something that I think is cool.
Thank you for the great lecture. I'd like to ask you, what are the reasons behind the failure of Bazaar, and could you share the lessons you learned there?
Problem number one, the site was targeted mainly at women shopping for stuff. I'm not a woman shopping for stuff online. A big issue. Number two, the fact that we just planned this huge thing out, didn't kind of phase it out, didn't think about the minimum viable product, and just got into this life cycle, or development life cycle that was really long, and didn't allow for us to change and iterate and kind of react to how people were, how the internet was changing, how people were kind of using the early builds of the site. So yeah.
So, what's next?
So speaking of the companies you run on a day-to-day basis, you mentioned two things, office buildings and the burgers. Which of those do you invest the most time into, and which ones do you find the most rewarding?
Well, definitely flipping some of the buildings. In the restaurant, in the beginning, we did invest quite a lot of time into it, but today it's kind of run by a team behind it, so I don't do that. This park, it went through, because most of the business was kind of coming through me. This park initially was kind of more Adel Zakout than this park, and it was really difficult to kind of pull back and associate this park as just a company as opposed to a figure. So today, again, this park runs itself. I focus on things and other buildings.
One more question, apart from working as an angel investor from now on, do you plan to start a new company, new venture, or what are your plans in the medium to long term?
I'd like to make livings and open buildings successful. So, once I'm done with that, then probably that'll be time for the next one. But yeah, I think the kind of seriality of entrepreneurship is important to me in terms of just being able to work on different stuff and stuff every couple of years.
Oh, there's a question.
Yeah, hi. I've been living in China for about 10 years, and there's a lot of just cultural stuff that you can't get your head around. Now I'm in Sofia thinking, I want to open a company, and I'm will need eventually to hire people and work with people. So what are the challenges or the strong points, the benefits to it?
Again, like I said earlier, I think that just having a cool idea and having a cool company that wants to do cool, interesting stuff is really your best kind of calling card in terms of hiring people. I think in terms of culture, it's really not much. It's not very different to the culture in the UK, for example. there are slight cultural differences, but not really. It's never been an issue for us, to be honest. So yeah, so I just say, try it and do it.
Okay, so did you know that there is a secret recipe for making a bull burger? And the next person who asks a question, I will share the recipe with him.
How do you know it?
Okay.
So my question is one is for the audience. How many of you have started your own company or business or attempted something like that? Raise your hand. Okay, that's a good number. My question to you is, do it to a lot of people sounds like general. What's your advice? The first thing tonight or tomorrow morning that they should do in order to start their company? The first thing that they should go ahead and do.
I mean, it is just do it. If you have an idea to create this cool platform or website, write that first line of code or put out that job advert for, the person that you need to find. Or if you're looking for financing, then, stop looking at the empty application form for a loan shop. Just take it and fill it out. Just, take that first step that you need to do. Stop thinking about it and, pushing it away in the future and just do it.
Okay, so any last questions? Oh, there are more questions, right? By the way, the recipe is encrypted. And I will get the key.
Well, my name is Mitovе, and I'm also a young entrepreneur like you. The question I want to ask to you is, could you tell us about the myths about combining business and family? Because when I was in school in Germany, when I was studying entrepreneurship, one of the first things that was taught to us was you have to be aware what is the risk when you're starting your own business. So.
Yeah, I haven't started a business with family, but starting a business with friends, it's much easier because you trust the person next to you. You know that they'll do what they need to do. I think the really important thing is to make sure that in the beginning the kind of relationship is clear. Who gets what and who does what is clear, so that doesn't kind of cause conflict in the future. But in terms of also resolving conflicts, having a fight with a friend and then being able to resolve it amicably is it's much more possible than just a business partner who will probably end up in court. So I think for me that is important. At least from my experience, everything that I've done has been with close friends.
What about personal life?
I mean, you're at the office with them and then you go and get beers or burgers.
What do you mean? I meant with family, actually. This is what I meant with family. Personal life.
In what sense?
In the sense of time, combining both.
Right. I'm not sure how to answer that, to be honest. I mean, when we're at the office, it's workload, and we're talking about work and talking about business, and then when we're not in the office, we're likely talking about business again, but it's because we enjoy it. But you then also do other stuff. So yeah.
Okay, do you have time for girlfriends? For example?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you find time.
Okay, thanks.
Any last questions?
Just to answer that, I mean, I think, especially when we got funding from Open Buildings and Livings, we were kind of working, 16, 17-hour days every day. And I learned that that's actually not so good. You get burnt out very quickly, and you go through this kind of phase of 2-3 months of just being burned. So I do try and limit the time that I work and kind of try and have some fun as well. I think it's important to have that perspective.
My question is, congrats for the great lecture. And, my question is, what are your top 3 tips for productivity? How to boost your productivity?
I'm a pretty disorganized person, so I'm not the best person to ask. I try and plan out the stuff that I need to do. Like I try and list things and then just go for them. But in general, I'm a person that leaves things until the last possible minute because that also drives me. This presentation was finished at 5:30. So yeah, I'm not the best person to ask.
Okay, more questions, great. Keep them coming.
Hi, what is the fair percentage while working with friends?
The fair percentage?
Yes, when you're separated with friends.
Yeah, that's something that we've, that I've had, experiences with. I think your initial gut feeling is 50-50 because, your friends and you're getting it together and 50-50 sounds great, but in reality that can cause issues later on when somebody's maybe getting more, the other person's, not so interested. So I think in the beginning it's important to set up that framework and to just have that discussion of, who's going to be investing what time, what energy, effort, money, whatever it is into it, and to base it on that. I don't think that it's not an issue to make it one-sided and not half-half as long as that kind of discussion is taking place in the beginning.
Okay. Joe?
Actually, I didn't quite understood what exactly is the business model behind open buildings.
Well, when we launched Open Buildings, the idea was that we kind of have this biggest archive of buildings in the world. So, for example, Burj Khalifa in Dubai, the tallest building in the world, would have a profile. And I would be a property developer in Saudi Arabia, and I wanted to build the next tallest building in the world. But to do that, I need to find the correct architect, the correct contractor, the lift consultant, etc. People who have that experience. And at the moment, that process is very much based on word of mouth recommendations. Like the way that property developer would do it today is, pick up the phone and try and call friends, ask around. It's not available online. It's not available in one place. So the idea was that the buildings, all these companies would be listed on the profile of Burj Khalifa. And if I'm that property developer and I'm looking for an architect who has that experience, I click on the architect, get in touch with them, and start my project. So we're going to monetize by connecting the two sides. We found that that's very difficult to do. We had meetings in New York, for example, with Durst Corporation, the biggest property developer in New York and probably in the US. The way that they do business is they have a black book. They've worked with X people for the past 20 years, and Open Buildings will not change that today. So that's why we kind of shifted to clippings, where it's a consumer product. We kind of felt that consumers are used to using the internet to shop, to find professionals, etc. So that was where kind of clippings came in. On clippings, you can get inspiration, you can buy products, and you can also find the professionals, so interior designers and architects behind each and every vision. You can get in touch with them and send them a design. But again, I think as a business, clippings is much more focused on selling stuff at the moment. No. It doesn't monetize, but in terms of me being an architect, it doesn't monetize, but it will continue to exist. It doesn't monetize today. Like I said earlier, that's not so important. I think the fact that we've created this resource is much more important to me than actually, destroying that experience by adding advertising or whatever it is to make it $1,000 a month.
Okay, so this is the last question. After this, we are not finished yet, so stay in your places.
Question is, what are the pros and cons of finding venture capital private funding versus through the regulated market or stock exchange? Why would you rather seek angel investors than undergo IPO, the so-called flotation?
You couldn't undergo an IPO at the stage when you'd be looking for angel investors. You could undergo an IPO when you're,
Let's say you have two companies like you're saying they're pretty, they're winning money, they're earning money, so basically potentially attract more investors through the stock exchange to grow the business, diversify, whatever.
Well, I mean, so we're very far away from that kind of volume to be able to list on the stock exchange to a market. But in general, if you look at, the pressures of the stock exchange are, when you get VC funding, I think the important thing is to get smart money. So to make sure that the people who come onto your board are kind of tied into your vision. They want to be a part of it and they'll help you, and they're not kind of coming in with something different. So that's really valuable to have smart money that can open up doors, that can kind of give you access to business contacts, advice, etc. And that's, Index and Deal Run, for example, have been absolutely great for that. When you IPO, it's a totally different ballgame. I think for a company like Facebook, the reason they IPO is more to allow their employees to cash out and to allow all of their investors who invested tens of millions, hundreds of millions into the company throughout the years to cash out, and that's their way of cashing out. I don't think that IPOing really gives much value